Welcome back to Mindset Mastery. I'm Dr. Corey Hirsch, and today we're going to talk about perfectionism. In this video, I'm going to describe perfectionism, where it comes from, and by the end of this video, you will have 4 tools that can help you gain freedom from the bondage of perfectionism. On the surface, striving for perfection may seem admirable, but in reality, it's often a barrier to success, creativity, and happiness. During this video, we'll explore what perfectionism is, how it affects your life, and most importantly, how you can overcome perfectionism. Let's dive in. The American Psychological Association defines perfectionism as the tendency to demand of others or of oneself an extremely high or flawless level of performance, in excess of what is required by the situation. It is associated with depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and other mental and physical health problems. It is important to note that there is a healthy perfectionism that contributes to success. It's okay to have perfectionistic tendencies. Perfectionist strivings drive us to set high goals, work towards excellence, and push ourselves to achieve our goals. People with healthy perfectionism enjoy healthy self-esteem, and they're able to experience disappointment or fall short of their goals without it affecting their self-esteem. In contrast, pathological perfectionism isn't just about being perfect. It's about believing that you have to be perfect in order to feel worthy or to avoid rejection or criticism. Sometimes perfectionism is about the fear of success. Perfectionists set unreasonably high standards and goals, and they tie their self-worth to meeting those standards. They try to eradicate or erase any potential for failure, because if they fail, they may feel unworthy or lovable. Perfectionism presents in several different ways. Some perfectionists fear making mistakes or have self-doubts about their ability to perform. These perfectionists cannot tolerate being less than perfect or less than the best. Their self-esteem and self-worth are tied to flawless performance. When they are not perfect, they see themselves as a total failure. Perfectionists can be so afraid of failing that they can't even get started on whatever it is they set out to do. Others are so concerned with being perfect that they can't finish a project because there's always something they can do to make it just a little bit better. But remember, perfection does not exist in reality. So creating a life focused on perfection is just a lose-lose proposition. Some perfectionists set unreasonably high goals for themselves, and others adopt their parents' unreasonably high goals and expectations. These perfectionists use achievement and performance to gain approval and affection from their parents. The perfectionist internalizes the parental messages that anything less than stellar is just not good enough. These perfectionists experience diminished self-esteem whenever they fall short of their impossible goals. People who grow up with very critical parents may also become pathologically perfectionistic. And then there are other perfectionists who are overly concerned with order, organization, and structure. Procrastination is often rooted in perfectionism. It is quite difficult to get started on a project if you're consumed with thoughts that it has to be the perfect time, the perfect environment, and everything about the situation must be perfect to get the job done right. We become so overwhelmed with the pressure to be perfect that we become paralyzed and we can't even get started. In the book, The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown described perfection this way. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's a shield. It's a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact, it's the thing that's really preventing us from flight. Perfectionists strive to be perfect in many different settings. Perhaps you strive to be the best parent, the best student, the best employee or boss. Some people wear their perfectionism like a badge of honor. But I know for sure that pathological perfectionism is destructive and corrosive to your self-esteem. As I said, perfectionism might feel like a drive to achieve, but it often leads to procrastination, burnout, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and a host of other mental and physical health problems. Perfectionism causes stress, which leads the body to secrete cortisol, which is basically a poison, and the cortisol spreads throughout your body. The stress activates your fight or flight response system, and you may experience an adrenaline rush, muscle tension, or knots in your stomach as your body prepares to fight or flee. When cortisol is secreted over a long period of time or in high amounts, it travels throughout your body and it poisons your organs and causes many health problems. Let's talk about the roots of perfectionism. Perfectionism often derives from early childhood experiences. Sometimes parents praise their children only when they achieve high levels of success. And some parents overly criticize children for their mistakes. In addition, cultural and societal pressures contribute to perfectionism. We're bombarded with messages on social media and in our everyday lives that equate success with worthiness. Your inner perfectionist is likely trying to protect you from rejection or failure, but instead of helping, it's holding you back. Recognizing this is the first step toward change. Here are some common ways perfectionism shows up. Number one, procrastination. The idea is that if you can't do it perfectly, why even do it at all? Number two, paralysis. Paralysis occurs when you're stuck analyzing every single detail to the extent that you're not even able to get started. Number three, burnout. Constantly striving for the unattainable ideal is exhausting. And four, strained relationships. Holding yourself and others to impossibly high standards creates problems in relationships. Perfectionists often can only see the flaws and are unable to recognize the successes that they've accomplished. If one thing is not perfect, perfectionists see the whole thing as a failure. Perfectionists often label themselves. Either they're perfect or they're a total failure. Rather than seeing themselves as a person who does a lot of things, who happens to have made a mistake this time, a perfectionist sees themselves as a total failure if their performance is not flawless. Perfectionists also catastrophize. They have the idea that if something isn't perfect, the whole thing will be a disaster. So let's get to the important part. How do you overcome perfectionism? One way to overcome perfectionism is to challenge your inner critic. Just know we are judging machines. Our bodies are geared for survival, and we have automatic mechanisms in our bodies that protect us from danger, whether it's real or perceived. So it's natural that we are going to look to the negative immediately before seeing the positive because we are trying to protect ourselves from a perceived emotional danger. The problem is that failure is a part of life. And when we allow our automatic response to overtake our reaction to failure, we find ourselves feeling anxious, depressed, and less than. So while that automatic animalistic reaction is a mechanism that protects us from danger, we are unlike other animals in that we have a prefrontal cortex that allows us to evaluate whether the danger is real. Other animals just react without thinking when they are in the face of danger. We are unlike other animals in that we can evaluate and assess whether the danger is real. So when you have the first thought that I'm a failure or that this is not good enough, we can question those thoughts. Ask yourself, is it true? Can you know with 100% certainty that the thought that you're having is true? If you can't know with 100% certainty, then it's just as likely that your thought is not true as it is that it's true. You can choose to either focus on the negative thought that may or may not be true, or focus on the alternative thought that also may or may not be true. We get to choose where our thoughts go. Another approach to our thinking is asking the question, what if I'm not perfect? Then what might happen? Often our first thoughts lead us to think that catastrophe will occur if we are less than perfect. But the reality is mistakes are part of our daily life. Often the mistakes are benign or inconsequential, and when we're able to recognize that, we're able to take a different perspective and realize that everything is okay. Another approach to beating perfectionism is setting realistic goals. It's important to focus on progress, not perfection. If you break bigger goals into smaller tasks that are manageable and achievable, you'll be able to celebrate your progress as you go along. So write a list of things you need to do and start with the easiest one. Use the momentum you get from achieving that first task to help you move forward and on to the next. Enjoy crossing things off your list. As you cross more things off your list, you'll see the progress that you're making, and the momentum will grow until you are able to complete the task one step at a time. Another important aspect of overcoming perfectionism is self-compassion. Compassion relates to how we treat ourselves in the face of perceived failures or limitations, and the feelings that we experience when we're less than perfect. There are 3 components to self-compassion. One is self-kindness. Self-kindness involves being warm, kind, and understanding toward yourself, even in the face of adversity. The second aspect of self-compassion is common kindness. Common kindness is an understanding that everyone experiences difficulties and setbacks in life, and the feelings that go along with those setbacks is just part of the human experience. The third component of self-compassion is mindfulness. Mindfulness offers an awareness of discomfort without judging yourself and focusing on the positive aspects of your life. Self-compassion builds resilience and enables you to deal effectively with setbacks that are a natural part of life. One way to practice self-compassion is to treat yourself as you would a good friend. Remind yourself that mistakes happen and they're a part of learning and growth. One other way to combat perfectionism is to recognize and learn to embrace the notion of good enough. This is where mediocre makes money comes in. If you're on a job and you're so paralyzed by perfectionism that you can't even show up for the job, you're not going to get paid. But if you recognize that mediocre makes money and you show up for the job and do the best you can, you'll get paid. And you'll be able to learn and grow as you continue to practice the skills needed to do a better job. There's also this notion of done is better than perfect. Perfection is often unattainable, but finishing something can still have value and meaning. So I encourage you to stop procrastinating and just start taking one step at a time until you get to where you want to go. Please know that perfectionism doesn't have to control your life. By taking small, intentional steps, you can shift your mindset, reclaim your creativity, and start living with greater freedom and joy. Remember, you are worthy and lovable just the way you are, imperfections and all. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And if you're ready to dive deeper into this work, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's embrace the beauty of imperfection together.